yeah, you're not going to wake up and look like a professional bodybuilder by, lifting a couple body parts 4 or 5 times a week and doing light cardio and just eating healthy. It's not going to happen.
Welcome back to the Above Average Podcast. Today we have a special episode in store for you guys. We have a very special guest, somebody I actually went to high school with. Her name is Jessica. She goes by, you still go by Jay or you go by Jess?
Mainly people call me Jess. The J thing is just for Facebook.
Okay, so Jay's just for Facebook. So Jess is a professional bodybuilder. I try not to throw the female bodybuilder in there. It's just bodybuilder in general.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
And she's going to kind of dive into what her experience has been like in that. Recently turned professional this past year, right, Jess?
In 2019, but I competed for the first time this past year.
Okay. Yeah. So competed for the first time this past year. Has been a pro for 3 years. Going on 4 years, I guess. Math is not my strong suit, apparently.
No.
Just to give you a little bit of background on Jess, bodybuilding wasn't her first love, I guess. It was basketball. So she was a 4-year basketball starter at Penn State. We're just going to go with Penn State Beaver, which is a satellite campus of Penn State, and a national champion runner-up while she was there. She was also, I believe, a 4-year starter in high school, weren't you?
Three,
close enough.
Yeah.
As an amateur, she placed first in every local show she competed in, top 5 in a few national shows. If I'm getting any of this wrong, feel free to correct me. And then, again, coming off her first professional season this past year, and then placed 6th place at the Arizona Pro Show. So really excited. Thank you again for doing this. Really appreciate it. And we've already introduced you to Will. Will's just some guys. His side hustle is fitness. So,
Well, it's my main hustle now. It's my only hustle.
So I'll try to get this so you can. Oh, you can kind of see both of us. There we go.
Yeah, let's go.
Here we go.
I was also a national finalist in college for D2 soccer.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. Don't expand upon that because it's something you guys definitely have in common in terms of where you finished in terms of national championships. Yeah. So, Jess, if you want, give a little bit of your athletic background, not just we talked about the basketball and the bodybuilding, but anything you want to talk about from where you started, as young as you want to go to now.
Pretty much my entire life I've been an athlete. Probably, first grade, so I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, I started with soccer. I was kind of like a little local soccer star for just the local East Allegheny teams.
Mm-hmm.
Once I was old enough to sign up for softball, then I went to softball with one of the local softball stars, and then in 7th grade, basketball came around, so all of my friends decided to play basketball instead of soccer, so I gave soccer up and went with my friends to play basketball. It was my favorite sport, but it actually was my worst sport, I think. But, what you love is what you love, so I stuck with that. I just went to a local college. I wasn't really ready to give up playing sports, so I continued through college. After that, I definitely did feel a little bit lost since, I had sports and it was such a big part of my life for the majority of my life. So after I graduated, it just didn't feel right just going to work and just doing the mundane, waking up, going to work, coming home, showering, bed, the same thing over and over. So mainly just social media, I found out about not just like women's bodybuilding, but there's like a whole different realm of categories under women's bodybuilding that it was just very appealing, and I've always liked the look of fit women, and it just seemed like a really cool thing that would be attainable. So I started just kind of training myself, and it just kind of snowballed into me meeting my coach, who helped train me for free. I was kind of going through like a rough period of time when all this was going on. I was
Yeah.
feeling, like I said, a little bit lost. So it just kind of gave me like a purpose again. And it was something I just thought I'd try just very casually. And, it's something, if you're going to do it, you can't really do it casually. And I don't really do stuff to embarrass myself. Like I figured, hey, if I'm going to be competing, I want to actually do good at it. So um, it just kind of snowballed from there. And then I realized after doing a couple shows that I could be pretty good at it. Just kind of suck it out. And then once I got to the national level and I was still doing well there, then I thought, okay, well, my goal is just going to go pro. And it took me a couple years to do that. And then once I got there, it's just kind of naturally progressed, just sticking with it and liking having a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like even though like you and I haven't talked that much through the years while you were going through this process, I think I followed you. I've been following you on social media throughout that process, and I remember some of the things that you would post and just kind of the progression each and every time. So I feel like I've been on that journey with you a little bit. Because as you were talking, I remember when you first started posting those, as you were getting into it with your coach, and I remember you doing a short or something like that on Instagram about what you were cooking that day or eating or whatever it was, and it was like super strict because I think you were getting ready for a competition. I was like, man, I don't know if I have that willpower. Turns out I might.
You might. Can I also just say how perfect that was right there?
Yeah.
I didn't know that you played in college, like played basketball in college. And the podcast that we just did was we had a gymnast on that I went to college with, and we were talking about transitioning from being a collegiate athlete to then like the real world essentially. And that's something that for my business, like I, played soccer my entire life and I'm still involved as a coach at the collegiate level right now. But a large majority of collegiate athletes have to go through that transition period where they don't know what's next because you had this one thing that you did for so long. And the fact that you just hit on it so organically like that is just so on brand for what we've been talking about.
Yeah, that was almost exactly the conversation we had earlier about like staying regimented because you've been told what to do for so long as an athlete, and now you're trying to figure out your way. So, and that's kind of how you stayed regimented, I guess, is through bodybuilding.
Yeah, I felt like I kind of lost my identity. All I really was known for or had going for me, I thought, was sports. It's what I thrive on structure. And like you said, being told what to do, always being busy, definitely probably kept me out of a lot of trouble when I was younger. So yeah, luckily, sports have definitely, it's gotten me down a better path that I may have not gone down if I didn't have it. So yeah, definitely felt a little lost being in the real world, and this definitely gave me something to focus on and, develop skills that I use in every realm of life. Discipline, motivation, following through with plans, and doing what you say you're going to do, doing it to the best of your ability. All that stuff. It's not just for sports. That leads into everything, whether it's finances, your job, relationships. It's way more than just sports. So I'm very grateful that my life has turned out the way that it has.
Yeah, that's a great point too. And I don't know if we actually got into that on the last one. I think I wanted to, but just the ability to have the drive and commitment to say that you're going to do something and then actually go and make it happen. We did talk about this, but I can't stand when your word, like after you say something for so long, your word means nothing, and it's so important to be able to back up what you say you're going to do, because then that just makes you, it makes you a doer, and you're able to impose your will on reality. And it seems like so meta at saying it that way, but it's a real, it's a very real thing. It's you can make things happen.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So, I guess that kind of covers the sub bullet point of what motivates you. I think that you covered that.
Covered that.
So what are your future goals when it comes to bodybuilding in general?
That's still under debate at the moment. I definitely go back and forth with doing it. I mean, I plan on always staying in shape, and I know myself better. I do know that I like having someone telling me what to do and following the plan. I don't want to have to figure anything out on my own. My job is just to execute. So whether that's just having like a lifestyle coach or something in the future, I plan on staying active. Um, Bodybuilding is like it's a 24/7 kind of job. If
Yeah.
you don't do it, or at least I don't get paid to do it. I pay a lot of money to do it. So it's definitely something I've gone back and forth on. My main goal was to just kind of get through it at first. And then it was, let's go to nationals, let's go pro. So like my main thing was just to go pro, just because I was so close in nationals so many times. And, once I turned pro, I kind of almost felt a little bit of relief. But then it was one of those things, like if you don't at least try at a pro show, you'll kind of live in regret, like the what ifs kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went for it this past year, and it ended up being like a really great experience. But now that I'm a little bit older and I do have like a lot more things going on in my life, and like I have a pretty well along career now. It's not. I'm not sure. I think I will continue, like I still want to do the Pittsburgh Pro. Like there's a couple things I still would like to do as far as competing at different shows and stuff. But yeah, my main goal was just to go pro. And I guess I should say the main goal now is to continue loving it. Like my main goal as far as performance was to go pro, and at a pro level, just kind of not embarrass myself was like the main thing there. I did prove to myself that I could do it, and I'm very satisfied with that. I don't plan on like being like a famous, well-known sponsored athlete or anything. Like I'm
Sure.
very comfortable with where I'm at, but just as long as I still enjoy it and like I can still maintain relationships and everything while I have such a large commitment with competing, just balancing everything and just maintaining a healthy life is my main goal now.
Sure. So what, first off, let us know when you're going to do the Pittsburgh show.
Definitely not this year.
Yeah.
But maybe I think next year.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Is that the one that's at the Sheridan in Station Square?
No, that's the North American. It's a national championship. I have done that show a couple times, but the Pittsburgh Pro, it's an amateur show as well. It's usually the first weekend of May. It's normally at Soldiers and Sailors, but I think last year they had a different venue.
Okay.
The Sheridan is a separate show.
Yeah, I mean Highmark Stadium. I worked for the Riverhounds for 6-7 years, and the stadium is right there. And so I mean, you always knew when that was happening because everyone was outside walking around, and then I mean it would happen right there in the Sheridan. So yeah.
So, I think, would you mind sharing what you do as a career right now? I think it would surprise some folks.
Yes, I am a locomotive engineer for a passenger rail line. I went to college for criminal justice, and unfortunately, that just wasn't panning out the way that I had planned. So I knew I wanted to create a good life for myself, and I had to kind of think outside the box. And something that I just kind of went for, and it ended up turning out very well. So yeah, I started out as a conductor working in Pittsburgh, the freight railroad, and that's kind of just spiraled to the opportunity that I'm in now.
How did you get involved with that? Just kind of saw something posted and went and tried it out, or?
Well, so, kind of what I was saying before, how, me getting involved with bodybuilding, it seemed like my whole life kind of fell apart, and then it seems like everything came together at the same time. So bodybuilding definitely means a lot more to me just because it's tied to so many other parts of my life that have turned out well that
Sure.
works at the time. So, I was working in corrections, and it was just a really horrible environment. I wasn't making good money, and I was also like stressed to the max. So I remember I quit that job without having a job, which was like a very bold move and very
Yeah.
irresponsible. But at the time, I wasn't worried about it. So I was trying to get involved with like personal training and stuff, and that's like kind of slow to take off. I'm very introverted, so me trying to get clients was like really hard for me.
That shocks me that you say you're introverted. That's not
It's definitely ironic that I get on stage in like a small
right.
bikini and saying I'm introverted, but I don't have to talk when I'm on stage, so I think
Sure.
that's like the
Yeah.
main thing that helps. But yeah, I was trying to get involved with personal training, and it just really wasn't working out that well. But someone that I knew at the gym, it was a woman, and she got hired with Norfolk Southern, the freight railroad I worked for in Pittsburgh. And then I heard about another woman getting hired as well. So, like in my mind, I'm thinking that like women weren't cut out for that kind of work. I thought it was a super like laborious
Right.
lifting job. Um, so it's just something I was a little bit interested in, mainly just because it was a good career, and I just kind of went out for it and got picked, and it's just ended up working out very well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. You get to travel a lot, I'm sure, especially with passenger.
I've had some cool opportunities, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for it.
Were you just away?
That was for like a family obligation, but
Oh.
I just came back from a trip to California. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I saw the pictures. I assumed it was for work. So
Love California.
yeah, never been.
No,
My wife's been. I've never been.
you
California.
gotta get out there.
it's expensive out there.
Yeah.
It's expensive out there. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll work on that.
Yeah. Business trip.
So, one of the, I think, we're getting into, so this is a misconception. So kind of as a misconception, and we've actually done videos on this on the YouTube channel, but, women often shy away from lifting heavy weight or lifting in general because they don't want to bulk up. They want to maintain a feminine physique. So was there ever a time where you felt that way or struggled with that? And then what are your thoughts on women's feelings or whatever?
So I have always been a very big tomboy, and when I was younger, I liked WWF wrestling. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with China.
Yeah.
That used to wrestle with the guys.
Yeah.
I had like her book, I had the posters, like I wanted to be her so bad, and I've always been drawn to like strong, like athletic looking women. It's just something I've always looked up to. So personally, there's definitely a fine line of where I'd like my physique to go, but I've always wanted to have an athletic, muscular look. One thing that I will say is that I've been trying to get bigger for a very long time, and it's something that I have very consistently done for almost a decade now. You don't really get too big or too muscular on accident. So if that's something you don't want to do, it's not going to happen. You're not going to wake up one day and just be way too big. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
I'm gonna send that to my clients.
The tone look that most girls are going for, this is all stuff just kind of learning throughout the years. The toned look that I wanted when I was a little bit younger, it is building muscle. It's a shape. The level of body fat is what makes things look a little bit more or less soft. But having muscle gives you a nice curvy look. And, if you have a little bit of body fat on you, it's just a nice, healthy look.
It's funny, it's like
Really low body fat, you start looking like bigger. It's all an illusion, So the bodybuilding thing is definitely an extreme thing, and yeah, it's definitely not something you're gonna do on accident.
Oh man, I'm about to
And
flip this table.
he's super hyped because it's almost like you watched that video because that's exactly what we said in
drives
the
me
video.
insane because, and I've had people tell me, and women and men, I've had people tell me, I don't need to get bulky. I just want to build low. I want to tone up. And I'm like, listen, I know what you mean when you say tone up, but like toning isn't a thing, in the sense of like lifting different is going to make you look different. Like you're either going to build muscle, you're going to burn fat. It's one of the two. And like I always tell people, I'm like, you have no idea how hard it is to look stage ready when you're competing like that. It's not going to happen to you on accident. And I have to continually say that type of stuff. And it's crazy how that is just riddled in society. That and I think it's getting better. I think that it is changing, but it's just I've run into so many women, especially with my business with personal training, where it's like I don't want to I don't want to be big or anything like that. I'm like, listen, like you won't. Like you're first of all, you're not willing to work hard enough, and you're not going to eat enough for that to ever happen.
Yeah, I could see Will getting hype over
I'm getting all
this.
fired up over here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all see me on Instagram or something, and then when they see me in person, they're like killing my ego, but they're like, "You are not big at all like I thought in person."
Well, damn.
Like sucking in your stomach and kind of flaring everything out to look bigger, and being like dehydrated, all that stuff, and the lighting, the professional pictures, how they do everything. It's not what it seems.
Yeah.
It's an art and it's an illusion. And yeah, you're not going to wake up and look like a professional bodybuilder by, lifting a couple body parts 4 or 5 times a week and doing light cardio and just eating healthy. It's not going to happen.
That's a clip.
Yeah.
It's a clip right there.
So getting into the posing, just kind of going off script for a minute. So I had somebody I work with used to compete as a bodybuilder. He's a male, but he said that one time he flexed and posed real hard and passed out. Have you ever seen that, or have you ever had any experience like that? Because obviously, to your point, sometimes you're cutting weight, so you're a little bit dehydrated or a bit dehydrated, and you're actually not in the best situation, so you look a certain way because you're trying to cut all that water weight and whatnot. And so I could see that happening. Have you ever had any experience with that?
Luckily, I have not, and I haven't seen it in person. I've definitely heard about it a lot, but just from my personal experiences with it, for one, male bodybuilding is way harder than anything I do. I compete in the figure division, so it doesn't have to be, my physique doesn't have to be super dry and hard and grainy looking like a bodybuilder or a women's bodybuilder would, or women's physique. There's a lot of different categories. So I don't really have to cut water as harshly as the other categories do. But just from my experiences with like the little bit of water I have had to cut, when you're on stage, those lights are very, they're very bright to show that illusion we were talking about. And it's very hot, so you sweat, and you don't really have a lot of water in you. So just think about like tensing your entire body up, and you're definitely a little bit depleted since you probably don't have a lot of carbs, you definitely don't have water. So you're more prone to cramping.
Yeah.
And holding your body and trying to like suck your stomach in and not look fatigued and look like it's easy. It's actually a lot harder than what people think. And if you've ever boxed or something, like 10 seconds feels like it's like an eternity. It's kind of the same thing holding your poses. You really have to practice. And even with practicing, I mean, once you're dehydrated on stage, I have heard of people, passing out just from being so depleted. So it's definitely, bodybuilding at the stage level is not the healthiest thing. It looks like it's the healthiest activity, but when you get that low body fat, it's actually potentially dangerous.
Yeah. And you got to know, obviously, everything, it takes training and all those kind of things to make sure you can get through it like anything else. Everything has risk, especially when you're competing in any sport.
Yeah.
Everything inherently has risk. So what are some of the common misconceptions about bodybuilding, whether it's in general or specific to women's bodybuilding, that you would kind of like to debunk or irritate you the most?
I have a lot of things that people don't understand. But it's just in general about bodybuilding, but I guess for females, it's something we kind of already touched on. Like just say I'm wearing a sweatshirt and I'm out, and somehow I really don't try to, broadcast that I'm a female bodybuilder or anything like that. But if it just happens to get brought up for some reason, I've noticed that I tend to word it by saying I'm a professional figure competitor, because I've noticed that the reactions when I say I'm a professional bodybuilder, people take it a little bit harshly. I mean, people just automatically assume that you're like a super hardcore, huge, like flexing, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Everyone has their own likes and goals and everything, but I don't really like the negative reactions to that. There's definitely different levels to it, like we talked about before, and I don't like that it's just seen so negatively by saying you're a professional bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You know, people don't understand that there's way different levels. You know, like bikini, they don't really have a whole lot of muscle. You know, it's just like a beachy, like pageant type of look that's athletic. It's just people don't really understand it. So that's kind of one thing is people just automatically assume that you say you're a bodybuilder that you're like trying to be this like huge, you know, flexing whatever kind of person. And there's way more to it than that. Um, and then I guess on top of that as well, it's not necessarily just for women, but um, people think that all you have to do is build muscle. And there's, again, it's not all about muscle, there's a look to it. So I'm training for a look. You know, I'm not just trying to like pack on a whole bunch of muscle. And I think a lot of people think, oh, that girl's big, she's going to win. It's a lot more detail oriented than people think. It's not just, you know, like a bunch of like meatheads like slamming weights around.
Yeah.
It is like an art form, and you know, there's so much that you can learn from doing it, and like we were saying earlier, you know, like following through and the discipline and all that stuff. It develops you into a better person. It's not just about building muscle. So there's that side of it, and then also some parts of female bodybuilding is like very sexualized, and you know, the glute is a muscle, and for some reason, people can be very immature about women
Yeah.
showing their glutes in their suits. It doesn't have to be like that. I mean, I guess depending on how you display yourself and how you want to be looked at and how you carry yourself, you could be seen that way. But I mean, I try at least to be very selective with how I appear online. You know, I do have coworkers and family that I know they see my stuff, and I try to make it about the art of bodybuilding and just the goal setting and accomplishing different things rather than it being like uh, Playboy, you know,
Yeah.
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 some
No.
people do tend to take it that way. So I think females have a harder time gaining the respect that a male bodybuilder would.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, or the flip side of it is she looks too masculine. Comes
Yes.
across a lot, I hear. So like I've heard people say it. So I think that's the flip side to that is it's either sexualized or it's talked about in a derogatory fashion because it's women look too masculine in some folks' opinion.
And it's always, I guess that's something else that bothers me too. Yeah, it's just like with anything, you know, like when boys are growing up, they're always, oh, you're so strong, you're so fast, you're so this and that. The girl is, you're so pretty, you know. It's always focused on looks for women, and everyone seems to have an opinion about that. You know, like if there's a male bodybuilder, he looks so strong, all these things, but it's always the woman, you look too masculine, you look too this. It's always focused on the looks for women, and it's not. It doesn't seem like it's quite as the same as the way male bodybuilders are looked at.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah, yeah.
So I guess the next thing is so can you, as much as you feel comfortable or want to talk about, can you delve into like how your lifestyle changes from normal everyday, be it training and nutrition, from normal everyday life to getting ready for a competition?
Oh, well, training is pretty much the same. If you're doing it correctly, in my opinion, there's a million ways to do it. But in my personal opinion, how I approach it, I don't really change my training that much. You know, whatever I've done to put the muscle on is what I'm going to do to keep the muscle on. So from off season or just, you know, regular everyday life to training for a competition, the training is pretty much the same, give or take a little. You know, you're going to lose strength towards the end, so you might have to change your reps up or something like that a little bit. As far as diet, though, I try to give myself a little bit more leeway when I'm in the off season. You know, if I restrict way too much, I know I tend to, you know, binge if I like restrict too much. So I do allow myself, you know, if there's like a social event going on or something, like I'll allow myself to have an extra meal or something like that. I try not to get too far. You can get into like, you can spiral bad habits
Yeah.
easily. So I try to stick with it, but I also do allow myself to relax a little as well. So that's something I definitely will not do in competition at all, no matter what's going on. The answer is no. Like I 100% stick to my plan when it's down to business. Off season, it's mainly focused on building muscle and recovery. So eating a lot more calories, a lot more carbs. Still doing cardio, just for heart health, but um, not doing it to the point that when you have to add it in when you're competing. You don't want to be too good at cardio in the off season because as you keep progressing and you keep adding cardio, you keep lowering food. If you're doing too much cardio in the off season, then you really have nowhere to go when it's time to cut down. You have to eventually do like 2 hours of cardio a day. So I guess overall, just a little less cardio and a lot more food. Training pretty much stays the same.
Okay, that's interesting.
I wanted to ask, so as you get into so how long does like a prep, like that's like the term for it, right? Like as you're leading up to a competition, like how long does that last? Like when do you start that?
If you're very lean year round, which genetically, I mean, that kind of depends on the person. I've seen people do like 6 to 8 week preps. I think for me, that's totally not going to work.
Yeah.
I've done like 12 weeks before, but I seem to think I do better with dieting for a longer, slower period of time. So I normally do anywhere between like 16 to 20 weeks.
Okay.
So it's more slow and steady rather than
Yeah, like a
Ramping up.
yeah.
pounding it out and basically starving myself I'd rather have more time and be ready early and just kind of coast in.
Yeah.
And
That seems the
give
most
yourself more
efficient
time
way.
and balance for that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so then I know you said like you don't have to do like because of what you do, your style, I guess, you don't have to have like the hard, like super depleted, dehydrated type cut, I guess. But when you're within a week of that competition, I mean, are you like like mentally exhausted? I mean, because I've heard that about like bodybuilders. It's like as you're approaching in like you're 3 days from it, like you're worn down. Like, is that generally how it goes?
From hearing from others that have talked about this, I wouldn't even really say a week. I would honestly say if you're ready, you aren't functioning in everyday life very well for about the last 4 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a like, and
That's a commitment.
right, and that's a completely different thing. Like, I mean, I know myself. Like, when I get mentally exhausted to the point where it's like I mean, in the national championship, I was so fried, and like my mind, like I was just not doing what I have like a mild case of OCD, and like I was in it for like a stretch of time, but that is a completely different thing from these types of competitions because I mean, like you said, it's 4 weeks. Like I was in it for maybe 2 weeks, and I mean, and I'm also not like I'm still eating and like hydrating because I've got to recover for the next game. But in this sense, it's like you're, continuing to head towards that peak. And so then, I mean, 4 weeks is a long time to be operating at that, like almost sub maximal level of feeling good.
Yeah, you do go on autopilot after a while. You're short tempered.
A joy to be around.
Just runs thin. Yeah, you're low energy. So my coach actually said this, and it's definitely something that stuck with me because I was telling him, I'm kind of like pulling back from like my relationships, and I'm just getting like really like introverted. Like I said, I already am that anyway, but he said something like when you're prepping, like who you really are is amplified when you're like at those last couple weeks. It just kind of made sense because I am very like to myself and introverted. So what I tend to do is when like things get hard is just kind of get in my little shell and just get through it. So I tend to like pull back. You don't really have a lot of energy, so the little that you do cannot be wasted on anybody or anything that doesn't really matter. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's one of those things at the time, it's so hard and you don't know why you're doing it to yourself. But then once the show comes, you're like, wow, like I can't wait to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an insane type of commitment. So I guess on that side of things, what are your goals now, like personally, professionally, from a fitness perspective? Like, what's the end game for Jess when it comes to all this?
Well, for now, I am taking like a little bit of a break. I do have some like work related things going on. So for the next couple months, I'm just trying to maintain where I'm at and not really go one way or the other. Just kind of maintain where I'm at, get through the next couple months. We're potentially going to be relocating for work, so I have a lot of that kind of stuff going on, and that has to be number one. So just seeing, that's all kind of up in the air. So just trying to get through the next couple months, and I believe I'm going to try to train for that Pittsburgh Pro you mentioned earlier. So that'll be next May. So once I can settle down a little bit and get past this maintenance phase, definitely need to put on. I know I need to put on muscle. That was my feedback at my last show. I'm actually pretty tall for the professional. For me to pack on muscle, I have really long arms and legs, so it's going to take some time for me. So just try to put on a little bit more muscle overall everywhere. Hopefully get settled with wherever we're moving to, whenever that may be. And then I'll probably start prep maybe the end of December, early January for early May show. And I guess depending on how that goes, I might continue or I might take a break again. I kind of just take it as it comes. I don't want to get too far ahead because things change so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I actually have one question that's kind of like not have anything to do with what we just asked, but I wanted to ask this earlier and then I didn't get my chance. Like symmetry is very important in physique and bodybuilding and stuff like that, right? And so what do you do about that? Because obviously to an extent there is genetics involved there, right? But I mean, how do you fix asymmetries in the sense of like the visual?
So if you have a larger upper body versus your legs, I would say you really got to hammer your legs out. I mean, I've seen it a lot where people have a dominant body part. You could do maybe a couple light sets a week just to maintain that, but you just got to hammer it out. Like if your legs are smaller, one heavy day, maybe do one hamstring day, one quad day, one accessory day. You just really gotta, I think you just have to keep like putting blood in the muscle and just keep trying to build it.
Yeah.
While it catches up to what you already have. But if you're hammering out your upper body that's already dominant, it's just gonna continue to dominate.
Sure.
No matter how much bigger your legs are progressing.
So
I mean, you just have to prioritize your training. Just focus on what you need to focus on the most. And if it's something like, you've had an injury where one leg is larger than the other, for that, I mean, just bilateral stuff is the best way to do it. I've read this and I have actually noticed this after doing some research that, let's say you're doing a lying leg curl. If you have a weaker leg, you're using both legs at the same time, but you're actually favoring your stronger leg. You just don't really realize it. And after, really paying attention to that, I did have an ACL injury in college. So my left leg still is smaller to this day, and it's definitely a lot weaker. So I noticed if I do anything with both legs at the same time, I definitely do either lean to my right leg or I can feel like I'm pushing with it more. So I try to do a lot of single leg things or like walking lunges or something like that.
yeah.
Just to isolate those.
Yeah, I'm right side dominant, so I've been kicking. I mean, I can kick with both, but I mean, I've used 80% my right leg for all of my soccer career, and like there is a very visual difference that is apparent in my right quad versus my left. And I mean, I kick more with my left now, but it's something that I just kind of became aware of. Like I got tendonitis in my I had patellar tendonitis a couple years ago, and same thing. Like I notice that I'll favor my right side when squatting. But they do say it's like unilateral stuff is some of the best stuff you can do, and it sucks. Like I think lunges are horrible.
Oh, I
but
hate no.
but like the things that suck like that are like, you know, some of the best things for you.
Yeah.
And I have heard somebody say too, you know, when they were trying to get over an injury, if your left arm is smaller than your right arm, you start with your left arm, you do 12 reps, and then with your right arm, maybe just do 10 or something like that. You know, just anything to prioritize the muscle you're trying to grow.
Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind.
But
That makes sense.
you know, even the top judges have said this. Not everybody is completely symmetrical.
Yeah.
I mean, some it's more noticeable than others, but there's not really. I'm sure, you know, I'm sure there's people that are very close to symmetrical, but to a point, nobody is exactly the same.
Right. You only have so much control, right? Yeah.
So, getting back to my list of questions, before I was so rudely interrupted.
Sorry.
Because, you know, the people want to know what's Jess's go-to post-meal or post-competition meal.
Ooh.
You can't go wrong with a burger. Make a black and blue burger, so like blue cheese, garlic aioli, just
Oh.
smothered in it.
Say it slow.
The steak kind of ground meat. It can't just be like a regular ground meat. So like a really good quality burger, blue cheese on it, sweet potato fries with the marshmallow dipping sauce, and then a nice dessert.
Oh,
Can't go wrong with that.
Going
Man.
crazy over here. I'm so hungry like
Man.
that.
we've been going at this since about 3 o'clock. So, and I'm still dieting and cutting weight. I got 10 more pounds.
Got
of
getting
weight.
shredded cheddar over here.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was 220 before I met Will, and then after I met Will, I'm down to 185.
Okay.
On my journey to 165. I could see my abs for the first time in my life, Jess.
Exciting stuff. How long have you been at it now?
Since October 26th. I just look up when Will sent me the email. So yeah, it was October.
Year or 22?
Yeah,
So just a couple months? Wow, that's a lot of progress.
You guys been
Yeah.
flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
yeah. It's been great. I don't think I'm gonna get into any type of bodybuilding,
Yeah.
but we're just happy we could see the abs. That's where we're at. Well, at least the outline. The
Yeah,
outline.
it's the obliques coming
Yeah.
in.
So, if you got any tips or tricks for that, be sure to send them my way on how to get your abs.
I'm sure you know, there unfortunately is no tips or tricks, just good old fashioned hard work.
yeah.
Patience.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I
Patience.
probably got
Patience is a
to
big one.
lose another 10 pounds at least. So, but yeah, that's really all I have for you. Is there anything else you want to share from whether it's bodybuilding or just personally or anything with us and folks on YouTube?
So I guess one thing that I didn't really, it kind of came to mind, then the conversation went a different way. So motivation is great and everything, and I know when you're trying to change yourself, it mostly starts with motivation. That's definitely not always going to be there. The discipline is what's going to keep you coming back and, you know, doing the right thing. Whether, you know, I noticed for me, my motivation is feeling good about myself, and by doing what I'm disciplined to do, that's kind of, you know, feeling proud of myself is kind of what keeps me going. So, you know, if I have my physique that looks exactly the same in two different scenarios, the one is where I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm doing my cardio, you know, I'm staying disciplined, I'm eating right, going to the gym, you know, all of the above. I feel better about myself. You know, you carry yourself better.
For sure.
You feel more confident, your clothes feel better. I mean, just everything just seems to align. And if you take that same exact physique, looking exactly the same, clothes fitting exactly the same, but I'm not eating right, I'm skipping cardio, it's, you know, mentally I'm off, it starts to snowball. And motivation is not going to turn that around for me because now I'm on a negative spiral, but the discipline is what kind of, you know, I can recognize that now, and this is just what's continuing to try, get back on the horse if you mess up kind of thing. The discipline is what gets you to cut that off and turn it around. So if it were easy, everybody would be in really good shape. If you are serious about changing your life and changing your physique, it's going to be hard. You're not going to be motivated all the time, but you have to find the discipline inside you. You have to recognize your bad habits, cut them off. And a lot of that discipline, I know better. I know if I start to slip, I'm going to feel bad about myself. I don't want to do that. So it's just wanting better for yourself and following through. And then once you realize that you can do it, it's just gonna, that negative spiral, you can spiral upwards too. So once you start hitting goals, it becomes addicting. And once you do better, you don't want to go back the other way. So it's way beyond motivation, but it's worth it.
Yeah. And as you're talking, like I'm thinking about this past week for me, like, cause that's like mentally, that's where I'm trying to pull out of from this past week. So I had a work trip to Dallas. And then while I was there really wasn't, with meetings and everything, there really wasn't any time for me to hit the gym. So I was there for about 3 days. So this week, like I've only been able to get to the gym 3 days. I know, boohoo me, but and like obviously I was away on a work trip, so I didn't eat the greatest. I tried to make some smart decisions, but I'm in Texas. There's great food in Texas, and I love Mexican. So like I couldn't skip out on an opportunity to indulge myself. So I'm trying to get back on that horse now, and I'm doing okay. But like, as you're talking about that mental struggle of now you're on the negative side of things, and I maybe put on 3 pounds, and how much of that's water weight, and now I'm on the mental side of the negative, and like I had to drag my ass to the gym today because I knew that like if one day is going to turn into 2 days, 2 days is going to turn into 3 days, and so on and so forth. So like, I'm like, I got to get myself back in that routine and everything will heal itself. So went to the gym, got a nice shoulder workout in, and I feel great. But if I wouldn't have gone to the gym, I wouldn't have had the struggle of working out, but I would have felt like shit mentally until I would have got back into routine. So yeah, you're 100% right.
The motivation thing is something that I hear pretty frequently too, and people are, I'm just not motivated. I'm like, are you motivated to go to work every day or brush your teeth? Like, no, but you're gonna do it. So just go do it. I mean, I don't know. It's easy for me to say because I mean, it is a muscle that you got to flex. Like it's something that you build up over time. And for people that haven't done that, and especially talking about former athletes that when you're playing at a high level, like I mean, that's what it's about. But motivation is just it's not even real. I mean, it's great when you feel it, but it's not going to be what keeps bringing you back.
Yeah. So Jess, appreciate you jumping on this and taking the time out of your busy schedule and talking with us.
Yeah, this was great.
This was great, super informational. I feel like I know a little bit more about bodybuilding and that side of things in general that I think I didn't know or maybe had some misconceptions myself about. So yeah, really appreciate you jumping on. Like I can't say that enough. I text you out of the blue on Facebook and you said sure. So
yeah, and it's like you've been here before because a lot of the stuff that you've said completely unprompted is just so on the same wavelength as a lot of stuff that we've talked about.
We need, like, if you're in Pittsburgh, you gotta come and we gotta make like a video together or something that we put out on our channel because I legitimately everything you've said, Will has said in a video that we've shot or to me on an aside or whatever. So, but yeah,
right
again, can't thank you enough. Like, honestly, at the end of the show, we like to plug everybody's socials. So if you want to share that, it's up to you, but where can people find you at?
I'm not a big social media person, so I kind of go back and forth in my different shell. But I do have an Instagram that I inconsistently share to. It is Jess Bartges _IFBB.
Nice. And where let's try that again.
What?
Will, where can they find you?
Actually, let me grab this again because I don't remember what they are.
He's gonna use his business card.
I've got 4 different ones now. So I got YouTube, Will Marshall 1, Instagram at Will Marshall _1, Facebook, Will Marshall 412, and TikTok at Will Marshall _1, and MarshallFitnessTraining.com.
And you can find me on TikTok at MarkyD25 and on Instagram at MarkyD25 and on TikTok at MarkyD17. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. We'll see you on the next one.